Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and you all know how much I love talking about marketing on the air, and I know how many of you listeners, maybe you want to ignore marketing, but the truth is that marketing is the growth fuel in all of our businesses, and that's why we have found an incredible, not only marketer, but fellow entrepreneur, of course, for today's episode. This is somebody who, the more I looked into his work, what I really appreciate is that he adheres to one of my favorite ever Einstein quotes, which is, if you want to impress somebody, make it complicated. If you want to help somebody, make it simple. And today's guest makes marketing not only so simple, but so accessible for business owners just like you and I. So let me introduce you to him. His name is Drew Dorenfest. Drew is a marketing expert who has worked with global brands that you've probably heard of, such as Netflix, Apple, Warner Brothers, the NFL, and many more as a video editor. Now with Client Magnet CRM, he's using his expertise to help fellow small business owners grow their brands through more clients, more 5-star reviews, and more sales. And to tell you just a little bit about his company, Client Magnet CRM provides small business SEO services and marketing automation at an affordable monthly price. They work with small businesses in a wide variety of industries to optimize their websites to attract more leads, book more clients, and sell more products. They do that through a holistic approach that involves SEO, email marketing, reputation management, and automation. So we're going to dive into all of those things today. So if you're thinking that maybe those sound intimidating or maybe you've quote unquote tried them in the past, well then Drew's completely going to change the game for us today. So I'm excited about this one. Let's dive straight into my interview with Drew Dorenfest. All right, Drew, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian.
I am so excited to geek out about all things marketing, but before we do that, we've got to start with you. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Drew? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
So I'm from Chicago. I've always loved movies. I've always loved TV. I'm just a pop culture junkie. And I moved out to LA. I barely knew anybody. I had no connections. I found my first job on Craigslist. I got coffee and picked up lunches and stuff for a trailer agency. So they did trailers for movies, and then I did a lot of video game trailers. So got to work on movies and video games straight out the gate, and I've been doing that ever since, pretty much. I love it. You just got to stay on your toes, kind of take whatever comes at you and do the best you can and be really creative. So I said I loved editing. I made my own short films my whole life, but in college too, I got really into the editing side. I didn't love being on set. I didn't love the long hours and the grueling nature of being on set. I liked being in a comfy chair and being creative and figuring out how I can make something look really cool in an edit. It's almost like editing music videos. You cut to the music, you cut to a rhythm. That's a lot of trailer editing. It's very musical, and I don't play any musical instruments, but I love music. I'm obsessed with it, and you have to be very musical to be a trailer editor. So I kind of worked my way up there. I became a trailer editor at an agency. We worked with all the big movie studios, all kinds of stuff, big comedies with Will Ferrell, big action movies, big comic book movies. It was amazing. I loved it. And then I was doing that for a couple of years, different agencies, learning different skills, different types of genres. I'm pretty some people as editors, they love to focus on one genre. They love horror. Every time you get a horror trailer, bring that to me, not some other editor, or comedies. So I'm very voracious. I like everything. So I said, I just want to learn everything. I love learning, and I did that. And then in 2018, I went freelance, which allowed me to work with different companies in a freelance capacity where they would hire me for a month or 6 months or beyond. And that keeps you even more on your toes, where you have to kind of be working at your current job while hustling for your next one when that one kind of wraps up. So I've been doing freelance as a trailer editor for about almost a decade, which has been great. And then in about 2.5 years ago, one of my clients, PBS, who I love, they're fantastic. They're like, hey, we love working with you, but instead of a freelancer, could you maybe be a vendor? And I said, sure, what do I have to do to be a vendor? And they're like, well, we'll treat you as if you were an agency, as if you're a company. We know you're a single person. But if you just form an LLC, you be a vendor, and instead of a paycheck, we'll just work out a agreed upon project rate for whatever project we work on as a flat fee. And if it ever doesn't feel fair, you can ask for more money, and we'll just take it like that. And so I said, sure. And so I did that, formed the LLC, Drew Dorenfest AV. That's me. That's my company. And then that allowed me to go and get other work directly since I'm the LLC. So if another client reached out to me and said, hey, I want to work with you instead of such and such agency, I said, great, we'll just do it how I do with PBS. So then I'm officially a business instead of just a for-hire editor. And that is where you really learn what it takes to run a business and all the challenges of wearing every hat. And then I was like, how do I get clients? So that became its own challenge. And you have months where you're so flush with work and you're up to your eyeballs of work. And then you have months where like, where are the clients? So that became a problem I had to solve for my own business to not have to constantly be cold emailing. And my first thing that everyone tells every business is just post on social media all the time. Post on Instagram all the time. Post on Facebook all the time. Just be on social media all the time. And I did it. And I burned myself out doing it. Posting, signing up for TikTok, posting TikToks, and it didn't really reap any reward. I didn't get anything out of it, posting all the time. It was exhausting. So I said there has to be a better way to do this. And that's where I discovered SEO. Of if someone's searching for what you do, you want to be a top result, and that doesn't require any social media. So that kind of led me to learn SEO, how it all works, applied it to my own business, my editing work, and then rewording my website and especially the social media networks that are the best for your niche. So LinkedIn, for instance, for business, it's business to business. It's a business social media network. I really focused hard on LinkedIn. So I get found the most on LinkedIn. Instagram is just for fun. It doesn't really make sense to post an Instagram for my business. Whereas other businesses that are more direct to consumer, if you're selling a product, maybe Instagram's great for that. So doing that, I was like, hey, this really worked for me. Maybe I could help some of my small business owner friends who have a small business just like me with their SEO. So I reached out to a couple friends of mine and I said, I'll do your SEO for free if you let me get access to your website, and I won't mess anything up. I won't redesign it. I'll just do a lot of stuff on the back end you won't even notice, and let's see what happens. And it went amazing. I was shocked. I was seeing 200% traffic increases, 50% online sale increases, and they were blown away. They're like, how did you do that? And I was like, it's SEO, it's automation, it's all this stuff. So I decided to launch Client Magnet CRM to turn every business into a client magnet. To get more clients, you just need to work with me at an affordable price. I'm very affordable because I understand what it takes to run a small business and the budget constraints one has. And it's been great. I've been really pleased with the early results. We're still early. I've been doing this for about a year, but I love it so far.
Yes, I so appreciate that overview, Drew, because you called out the very real truths about being an entrepreneur. You call out the feast or famine life cycle, which every entrepreneur faces at so many different inflection points in our growth journeys. And I would actually argue that past freelancers are uniquely equipped to be business owners, because when you're a freelancer, you don't even have a reputation or a brand name or maybe reviews to lean on. You are literally just one guy out there saying, hey, please hire me. And so, of course, when you transition to being a business owner and treating it like a business, there do become these different hats that you've alluded to that we have to wear. And it's very clear to me about how intentional and strategic you are about a lot of these elements of marketing that I appreciate that you called out social media. We'll come back to that at some point, but I appreciate that you called out the many elements that help us to get more business when it comes to reputation, reviews, search engine optimization, that all too often people think that these things happen by luck, or they just happen as a result of, if I'm in business, I'm going to start ranking in search engines. No, Yep. Let's talk about the reality of the fact that all of these results that we get in our marketing are intentional and strategic. And for people who have never taken SEO seriously, what does that look like? Because you probably blew some of your friends' minds when you didn't change what their website looks like, and all of a sudden they're getting more traffic and attention.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, my first client is a close friend of mine who has a small gift shop here in Los Angeles. She has a huge cult following, I would say, or dedicated people who come back again and again. And she has that feast or famine cycle of she's a gift shop. So around the holidays, she does amazing. Around Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, especially Christmas and Hanukkah, she does amazing. And then the other months, there's no holidays, people buying birthday cards or just looking for something to shop and buy that's cute and cool. And she has a variety of products. She has birthday cards. She has cool jewelry. She has vintage clothing. She has little fun toys or knickknacks you can put on your desk. She's going to swap meets. She's contacting vendors and artists. She has art on the wall. And she was like, I have an online store. I have a Shopify. I don't really know like what to do with it. And she posts on Instagram about like once or twice a day, or she has multiple stories. And I was like, you got to before I started the SEO, I was like, you got to do TikTok. TikTok is like where all the audience is. It's just TikTok shop. And she's like, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to do that. It's exhausting. And I was like, okay, well, let's try this SEO and see how it works. And then I went into her Shopify, hundreds of products, and she does the descriptions for all of them. She builds, when she inputs a new product, she builds a product page, she puts a description, but then she was ignoring like the meta text, which is like when you search on Google, that 2 lines of text underneath the blue link, she just ignored it. So if you ignore it, Google just auto-generates based on what they think it is based on the description. And that is really a gold mine. That is where you can rank and search for things that people are searching for. So you dig into the data and you go, okay, people are really searching for vintage buttons. So she'll go into a swap meet and she'll find all these buttons from the past, from the 80s, from the 70s that are so cool. And there's a voracious community of button collectors. And so if you don't put that vintage button from the 1970s in your meta text, Google just writes button, yellow button or whatever. So I really took the very beginning of SEO, the first like month, I just went through every single product and just went keyword deep on all these on all of her products. And, SEO takes time. It takes time for Google to recognize it, to index it, and for the results to show. Once I did that, it took about 2 to 3 months. Things really took off. And she started seeing more traffic and more online sales. And then the next thing was Pinterest. I was like, do you have a Pinterest account? And she's like, I maybe do. I think I forgot about it. And it was like a Pinterest account that she had, when Pinterest was a brand new thing that she hadn't touched in like 8 years. And I found out that you can sync a Shopify to a Pinterest. You can do what other websites do, but Shopify is great. So anytime you build a product page, it creates an automatic pin in Pinterest. And Pinterest is a little different than Instagram or other social media sites, where if you post something on Instagram, 3 days later, that's not getting found by somebody because it's constantly scrolling. It's constantly, everything new gets prioritized anything over anything old. Pinterest works like Google. It's like a visual search engine. It is bringing pins up that are relevant to someone who's their algorithm, if they like vintage buttons or they like, she loves like Pee-wee's Playhouse. If you love Pee-wee's Playhouse, a Pee-wee's Playhouse pin from a decade ago is getting surfaced to you now. And you can like it, you can save it, all this kind of stuff. So it's great. So I just synced Pinterest to her Shopify, and that exploded. Now she gets 10 times the amount of traffic to her website from Pinterest than her Instagram, which she posts every day. And she does nothing. It just exists, and it auto syncs. And sometimes we, create special pins and stuff, but Pinterest is amazing for that. YouTube works the same way. If you create a really useful YouTube, like if I'm trying to fix something in my house and someone made a very helpful solve for that problem on YouTube a decade ago, that's getting served to me. I'm like, that's the perfect solution. So there's certain social media networks that work a little different than Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, which are all about new. And those type of things can really help your SEO in the long term and get you found. So I would say I really rely on data. I go through keyword research. I look at like what is getting you traffic currently, and then you double and triple down on those things.
Yes, I love that overview, especially because, Drew, I'm going to make the argument today, and I don't know your take on this, but I'm going to make the argument that it feels like SEO is a bit of a dying art because, obviously, the rise of AI in different ways, which I think should actually enhance the SEO world, because now large language models are also indexing websites, and we have the opportunity to pop up there. But the second thing that I'm sure will bring a smile to your face like it does to me is the chorus of people who are always claiming that SEO is dead and email is dead. And we've been hearing this I've personally been hearing it for at least 20 years now, and I'm sure it'll continue for another 20 years. But Drew, along those lines, I feel like a lot of the technical mechanics, the foundations of SEO, have been lost amongst business owners, is that they don't understand the difference between on-page SEO and off-page SEO and the importance of that entire holistic search engine optimization mix. Introduce listeners to that, especially if they've never studied SEO or done SEO or heard about why do both sides of these coins matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that was another super illuminating thing with the first couple of businesses that I worked with, is they are passionate about their business and they know how to run their business day to day. They know how to, interact with their customers, but then the technical SEO, all that stuff is a mystery to them. You set up your website, or you have someone set up your website, and it's like this brochure that just exists behind glass that you don't touch because you're scared to break it. And a website, especially in relation to Google, and as you were mentioning, LLMs and all these things, the algorithm that is Google and what it prioritizes is evolving all the time. And so you do need to monitor your website and make constant adjustments to get found. So the on-page would be stuff that's on your website that is visible. The off-page would be things like Pinterest and YouTube, where you exist off of your website, that link back to your website, and vice versa. You link out to your socials. And you really have to manage both. And I found that you don't have to overdo it. If you're doing social media and you're good at it and you love it, keep doing it. It's great. But you have to marry that with the on-page website SEO. You have to have the right text that explains very clearly who you are, what you do, and where you do it. Those are the three core things for Google to understand your business. So I have clients that just love social media and they do it all the time. And then their website's just very minimal. It's this very Apple aesthetic of very minimal, don't overwhelm people. They don't want it to seem like we have a million tabs and links to click on. And that's fine. You can keep it very simplistic, but you want to have what's called content depth. You want to have a blog. You want to have a blog that updates with new posts semi-regularly. You want to have a very deep about page. You want it to be very clear about who you are, what you do, and where you do it, so that Google understands. So if you are in a local market, if you're in Los Angeles, it's a giant sprawl. So if you're in Encino, which is in the Valley, and you offer tax services, and someone's searching for, accountant, and they're in that area, you want to pop up as an option. Or if they took tax services Encino, you want to pop up as an option. And if you don't put the word Encino on your website, or you don't have the right schema that has your business listed at an address in Encino, Google doesn't know necessarily that you're in Encino and you're a great option for that search. So in regards to SEO is dead and such, people are searching all day long. There's billions of searches. It's just how we are clicking and where we're getting our results is changing to ChatGPT and Claude and stuff. And I find that LLMs use Google as their source. I think if you do SEO correctly, it ends up in AI. That's what I've seen. That's the data I've seen. So I think SEO is dead is overblown, and I think it's very much alive because we're all searching on our phones and our computers all day long.
Yes, so well said, Drew. And that is not going to change. I don't see the very near future where that's going to change, that we all just all of a sudden stop using Google when literally billions of searches every single day. But I really want to highlight and echo the point that you made about the fact that this stuff doesn't happen by mistake. So I lived in Marina Del Rey when I lived in Los Angeles, and you are spot on that I'm not going to a tax accountant in Encino. There is no chance anyone on the west side is driving up to Encino in order to do that. And so that tax accountant in Encino is going to miss out on business if they have not put the right things. It does not happen by mistake. Google's very smart, but it also relies on all of us with our own business data. We know our business data way better than Google does, and so we need to help it index us accordingly. And along those lines, Drew, one thing that I give your agency and your approach a lot of credit for is how intentional you are about the things that move the needle. And I'm going to call out reviews. I've been really excited to go here with you in today's conversation because not many marketing agencies focus on getting reviews. And that is such an essential mix. Anyone who shopped on Amazon, I know for me personally, it's literally the one thing I look at. If there's a product that has 5,800 reviews and it's a 4.4, and then there's another one that only has 3 reviews and it's a 4.8, I'm actually going to go with the 4.4, to be honest. And because it has such a high volume of reviews, but reviews, just like SEO, it's one of those things that does not happen by mistake. I love the fact that that is a very clear service that you offer, not just getting phony reviews, but you actually help clients get real reviews from their real life customers. Step one, by actually asking, and step two, of course, in putting it in a flow that actually makes sense. Talk to us about that review, the importance of reviews, and how we go about giving reviews, because as a podcaster, and I think a lot of YouTubers do this as well, we often call out how few people leave reviews of anything. So Drew, take us there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was actually one of the first things that I was curious about in regards to SEO. I was offering my video editing services as a freelancer once I became an LLC to non-entertainment clients, or a cold outreach, being like, do you need video editing? And they were like, well, we don't do video. Like, we don't, we use maybe a social media post, but we don't do like high-end video. And then I was like, well, if you're a small business, what do you need? And reviews was like number one. I was like, you need reviews as that social proof, because if you ask a friend and they give you a recommendation for a plumber, you're going to trust that over just someone you find on Google. So reviews act very much the same way. Of, if, like you said, a high volume of reviews is better than a low volume. So my first client, the one I was talking about who has the gift shop, has serves hundreds of customers a year, thousands of customers a year, and she hadn't gotten a new review in a year. And I was like, what's going on? Why haven't you got reviews? She's like, I don't know. I don't ever ask. It feels so awkward. And I was like, well, we can automate that ask. So when they, make the purchase and they get that email receipt, it just says, hey, thanks so much for shopping with us. Do you mind leaving us a review with the link that they can click? And we set that up, and it was a little bit. So the thing is, that is the lowest cost service I offer. It's a great entry point. If you just want to get more reviews, you can do that just without the SEO. Happy to do that. Happy to set that up. And then why it's a monthly service is it does take some optimizing. It's not something that, like, you set it up and it's great and it works automatically. Sometimes you have to make adjustments based, again, on the data. If you've sent out 200 emails asking for a review and you haven't gotten one, you have to maybe adjust the email, the timing, the wording. I've also discovered, like, Google reviews are a little bit easier for people than Yelp. People, for whatever reason, or maybe they never use Yelp, they're not comfortable using Yelp, but they love Google and they don't mind leaving a Google review. So I've seen amazing results of that. I set up Google Ask, and I time it right, of maybe a day later or 2 days later, and I've seen reviews come in very regularly now, and that helps the SEO, because SEO is the algorithm of Google saying, okay, beyond, if apples to apples, this service does this, and this plumber does good work here, and they, they've been around for 10 years, and this other one's been around for 15 years. The reviews might be the edge you have of this one has just way more reviews. So that might be the edge over your competitors. I find like SEO is about competitive edge. And so reviews are a huge thing. And when you do a high level service, like fix something in someone's house, you're a roofer, you're a plumber, or if you're a doctor or a lawyer, if you get those reviews for that, I did this amazing, or a tax accountant, I filed your taxes for you and saved you a bunch of money, the least you can do is leave me a review. Do you mind leaving a review? You feel a little bit obligated when someone does something super important for you to leave a review. If you just buy a product, again, like you said, the rates of response are very low. We're talking like 2 to 3%. So you have to send a high volume of requests out just to get one positive 5-star review. Now, as for negative reviews, you can't really control that very much. If someone's had a bad experience and they leave a negative review, that's up to them, and Google's going to leave that up. You can't like delete it. But how you combat it is just more positive reviews. If you go on Amazon, any product that has a almost 5-star rating has tons of bad reviews, but they have way more positive reviews. So that's what I would suggest, is if you can automate a request for thanks so much, please leave this review here, and you get way more positive reviews than negative reviews, you're going to do so much better than your competition, especially in local SEO. If you're local and you're a smaller market, you're not competing against big brands like Nike or Apple, you're competing against Joe Schmo down the street. That's a huge advantage.
Yeah, and listeners, I want to call out, it does not happen by mistake. Drew is really hammering that point with us today, that this is a marketing strategy. This is an intentional effort in order to get more reviews, because all of us have served a lot of people, but all of us also have so few reviews compared to the total volume of people who we've helped and who we've served and impacted. So, Drew, you mentioned automation as part of that process, is having these emails automatically go out. That's one way to guarantee that we increase our volume of asks. But I also know that's the tip of the iceberg for you when it comes to automations and the type of automated work that you do. Talk to us about some of those other automations that most business owners don't have in their workflow, but for you, it's super easy to get in there and set up for them.
Yeah, thanks. It is super easy, but incredibly complicated for me to figure out because every website is kind of different. You have to kind of find the quirks of a WordPress versus a Shopify versus a whatever Wix. But I use Go High Level. I find Go High Level is an amazing, super powerful tool. If you work with me in any capacity, whether that's at the lowest level at just getting more reviews or all the way up to SEO, use Go High Level to build these automations out. They look like a cool chart or tree where we, wire into your website, or we can use your own tools. Like for instance, in the gift shop, she uses a Shopify. They have a built-in automation tool. I said, let's just do it in there. But MailChimp has them built in as well. But you can do multi-step. So for instance, I have a client that does tax accounting. They have an office in LA and an office in Vegas. And so what I had to figure out, which is very complicated, is if someone books a meeting, they enter the automation flow, and then based on whether the person they're working with, because they handle virtual meetings as well as in-person office, if the person is in Vegas, you want them to leave a review for the Vegas office, not the Encino office. So I had to create a flow in which it looks for, okay, was this meeting booked in Encino or was this meeting booked in Vegas? If it was booked in Encino, it sends the leave a review in Encino. If it's in Vegas, leave a review in Vegas link. So that's one example of an automation that is very hyper specific. But beyond that, you can do all kinds of things with automations for if you're an e-com and you're sending products out. So if, like, for instance, I have a client that has just started offering subscriptions on his health food. So if you buy the one-time purchase, it sends you a thank you email. You thank you for, here's your order confirmation. But if you do the subscription, you need to have automations to remind people, hey, your item is going to renew in 3 days. If you want to cancel it, here is the opportunity to cancel before it renews. And so that's an automation where you have multi steps along the process, and you just want it to be humming in the background, working, where you're not manually sending out these emails, reminding your customers their subscriptions are going to renew in 3 days. You just want it to work automatically, and you can focus on other things. So I set those emails up, I make sure they work, I test them out, and hopefully nothing breaks, and nothing really does. And it's incredibly hard to set them up and troubleshoot on your own. That's why I'm happy to be your help right there. So that's just, and beyond that, just emails, you can do texting as well on Go High Level. And that also works really great with a landing page. If you want to offer, say, a free resource, like we'll do a free SEO audit, or we'll offer a free ebook that you can download. You send post on social media or on LinkedIn. Hey, just go to this website, put in your email and your name, and click this button to download. They download. It automatically sends them the link with the download or a coupon code. For instance, if it's an e-com, here's 10% off. It automatically does that on that click. And then it enters them into an automation flow of welcome them to your email list, or it sends them to some sort, whatever page you want to book a meeting. So those are types of automations I'm building all the time for clients, and it works great. It really is something that clients are mind blown. They're like, this has really leveled up my business. All this stuff that I've wanted to do for a long time, to professionalize, to be fully optimized at almost like an enterprise level of high level services you see all the time. Anytime you go to a big brand, they're sending these type of emails out and texts out. And you have to get to that level to kind of compete with these bigger services that are well known.
Yeah, and listeners, if you're hearing Drew talk about all of these things, these bells and whistles, and you're thinking, well, yeah, I wish I had that. Those are enterprise level solutions, but you think that they're unattainable to you. We're going to drop Drew's links in just a few minutes, because Drew is making this super accessible to small business owners. Why? Because you've heard, even in his backstory, he understands what it means to be one of us. He is a fellow small business owner. So we're going to drop his links in just a minute. But Drew, before I let you do that, I've got to ask you the question that I ask at the end of every episode. It's super broad, so you can take in any direction you want, and that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both wantrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and knowing that you are one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
I love this book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, who's in the restaurant business. He worked at some of the best restaurants in the world, not as a chef, but as like the person who managed and ran the restaurant, all the operations. I highly recommend that book, Unreasonable Hospitality. I found it incredibly illuminating because it's all about servicing your customers. It's about going above and beyond and making sure that everything is seamless and frictionless. And so when I'm working as an editor or I'm working at Client Magnet CRM, I'm always just going above and beyond. It's not like that's something I can't do for you. If it's something I can't do or I don't want to do, we can be a conversation. But if it's like, I can do that for you. Let's talk it out. Let's figure out, maybe that's something I have to, figure out on my own. I got to like go and do it, but I'm happy to like solve challenges. So I apply that to everything of how can I go above and beyond? And that makes clients so happy. It makes customers so happy. And then they come back to you. So that's really like how you get recurring business, is if you make someone happy, you blow their mind with how hard you work for them. I love working hard. It's great. I love solving problems and solving challenges. So if you can do that and be that unreasonable hospitality for a client, I highly recommend it. It pays off.
Yes, Drew. Now so much about your business is starting to make sense to me. How impactful that has been, because that is, as soon as our pre-production team came across you and your company, that absolutely stood out to us how much you care about your clients' success, their ability to obtain these sort of solutions, because I love that you called it out. I'm sure you get that reaction all the time from clients of, holy cow, I didn't think my business could have all of these things in place. And that's a combination of good technology. It's a combination of good marketing principles. It's a combination of really good work ethic, which you bring to the table. So many good things that you're doing, Drew. And I really appreciate you sharing your approach and your attitude towards all of that with our listeners. I'm also very excited for them to go and check out your website. I want them to see, I'm sure you're proud of this, is that you want them to see your services. You want them to see your price points because you want to have more conversations and help more small business owners. So Drew, with all of that said, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Oh, sure. Thanks. It's very easy. It's clientmagnetcrm.com. And on all socials, it's at clientmagnetcrm.
Yes, and on top of that, listeners, you already know we're making it as easy as possible for you to find that link and remember that link and click through right on that link down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. So, Drew, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.